Most people think confidence is about walking into a room with your shoulders back, speaking with authority, or never showing hesitation. But the truth is, that's not where it starts. Confidence doesn't begin with posture. It begins with the conversations you have with yourself when nobody else is around. And for most people, those conversations are brutal. We say things to ourselves that we would never say to another human being, and yet we expect to feel strong, to feel unstoppable, while tearing ourselves down from the inside out. That's like expecting a tree to grow tall and healthy while poisoning the soil it's planted in. You can't build unshakable confidence while letting self-doubt run wild in your head. The moment you let that inner voice go unchecked, it will chip away at you one thought at a time. The voice will tell you, you're not ready, you're not good enough, you don't belong here. And if you listen long enough, you'll start believing it. The mind is incredibly persuasive, but here's the key, it's also incredibly programmable. You are not stuck with the voice you have today, you can train it. Think about it, every belief you hold about yourself was planted at some point by something you saw, something someone said, an experience you went through. And once it's planted, your brain goes to work gathering evidence to prove it true. If the belief is, I'm not good at speaking in front of people, your mind will instantly replay every awkward moment you've had on stage or every time you stumbled over your words. But if you change that belief, and yes, you can, your mind will just as quickly start finding the moments you spoke with power, the moments you connected, the times you actually did well. It's not magic. It's simply how the human mind works. And here's where it gets practical. The first step to transforming that voice is noticing it. You can't change what you don't hear. So I want you to start paying attention to the tone, the words, and the assumptions that run through your mind when you face a challenge. Do you speak to yourself with patience or with criticism? Do you encourage yourself or do you attack yourself? Awareness isn't glamorous, but it's the turning point. Once you've got awareness, the second step is the deliberate interruption. You can't let those old patterns just keep playing out on autopilot. When your brain says, you're going to mess this up, you stop it cold and say, no, I've done harder things before and I can do this too. When it says, they're not going to take you seriously, you remind yourself, I've earned my place here. These aren't just empty affirmations. They're counter-arguments backed with truth that you repeat until your brain stops defaulting to doubt and starts defaulting to trust. This is why you can't fake it till you make it for long, because if your internal voice is screaming at you while your external presentation is pretending to be confident, the cracks will eventually show. Real confidence comes when both the inside and the outside are aligned. Another powerful way to retrain that inner voice is to change the questions you ask yourself. When you're nervous, instead of, what if I fail? Ask, what if this goes right? When you make a mistake, instead of, why am I so stupid? Ask, what can I learn from this so I can do it better next time? Questions direct your focus, and your focus fuels your feelings. If your questions are set up to find your weaknesses, your brain will deliver weakness on a silver platter. But if your questions are set up to find your strengths, your brain will bring you strength. And here's the most important part. This is not a one-time fix. Just like you wouldn't expect to go to the gym once and suddenly be in the best shape of your life, you can't expect to talk to yourself kindly for one day and instantly have unshakable confidence. This is daily work. It's the repetition of building yourself up instead of tearing yourself down. It's catching yourself when you start spiraling into self-criticism and flipping the script immediately. If you want to know whether your confidence is real, here's the test. How do you talk to yourself when no one else is listening? Do you back yourself or do you betray yourself? Because confidence is not about being fearless. It's about knowing that no matter how things go, you've got your own back. The way you speak to yourself sets the ceiling for how far you can go. Lower the ceiling and you'll forever walk hunched under it. Raise it and you'll realize there was never really a limit, only the one you built with your own words. So if you truly want unshakable confidence, start with the most important conversation you'll ever have, the one inside your own head. Because when that voice becomes your greatest ally, the rest of the world doesn't stand a chance at stopping you. Most people think confidence is about showing up when you're ready, when the timing is right, when the stars align, when you've checked every box on your imaginary list of I'm good enough now. But the truth is, if you wait until you feel ready, you will never take the first step. Readiness is a feeling we think we need, but it's actually something that comes after we start, not before. Confidence is born in motion, not in preparation. Think about the moments in your life where you grew the most. They probably weren't the moments where you sat around thinking about what to do next. They were the moments where you said yes. Even though your knees were shaking, your voice was unsteady, and your mind was telling you 100 reasons why it might not work out. You didn't feel confident before you acted. The confidence came because you acted. That's the paradox. Confidence isn't a prerequisite, it's a byproduct. And yet, so many people spend their entire lives waiting to feel a certain way before they move forward. They tell themselves, I'll apply for that job when I have more experience. I'll speak up in meetings when I'm better at communicating. I'll start my own business when I'm completely sure I won't fail. But those moments never come. And what they don't realize is that every day they wait, they're reinforcing the belief that they're not ready, which keeps them locked exactly where they are. The only way out of that cycle is to flip the formula. Instead of thinking, when I feel confident, I'll take action. You start living by, when I take action, I'll feel confident. Even small steps count. The first time you speak up in a meeting, the first time you make that phone call, the first time you put your name out there, each moment chips away at the fear and replaces it with proof. And that proof is what your brain uses to start rewriting its beliefs about what you're capable of. The thing is, action doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. In fact, waiting for perfect execution is one of the fastest ways to destroy your confidence. Perfectionism whispers that anything less than flawless is failure. So you either never start or you start and then beat yourself up because it wasn't perfect. But confidence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from resilience. It comes from realizing you can survive imperfection and still move forward. This is why small, consistent action is so much more valuable than grand, one-time gestures. If you want to build unshakable confidence, you don't need one massive leap. You need thousands of tiny steps that prove to yourself you can do hard things. Confidence grows through repetition. Every time you act, despite the discomfort, you're training your nervous system to handle more. You're building your tolerance for risk, and you're showing yourself that fear is not a stop sign. It's just a signal that you're growing. There's also something incredibly important about starting before you think you're ready. It strips fear of its power. Fear thrives in the gap between idea and action. The longer you wait, the more time fear has to grow roots, to spread, to wrap itself around every possibility until it chokes them out. But when you start quickly, even if you're unsure, fear doesn't get the time to multiply. You move before it can talk you out of it. And here's the truth. People who seem confident all the time aren't fearless. They've just built a habit of acting in the presence of fear. They've learned that hesitation amplifies doubt and momentum amplifies courage. That's the skill, not eliminating fear, but learning to coexist with it while still moving forward. Every act of courage plants a seed in your mind. The first time you try something new, you might feel like an imposter. The 10th time, you'll feel more capable. The 100th time, it will be second nature. And when people look at you and say, wow, you're so confident, you'll know the truth. It wasn't some magic you were born with. It was a muscle you built by moving before you felt ready. So the next time you find yourself saying, I'll do it when I feel confident, stop and reverse it. Tell yourself, I'll feel confident because I do it. That's how you train your mind to trust yourself, by giving it evidence that you show up even when it's hard, even when it's scary, even when you don't have all the answers. If you want to build unshakable confidence, stop waiting for permission from your feelings. Take the step first and let the feeling catch up later. We live in a world that loves comparison. It's baked into our daily routines, often without us realizing it. You scroll through social media and see someone's highlight reel, the perfect vacation, the big promotion, the glowing skin, the seemingly flawless relationship. And without even thinking, you measure your life against theirs. Sometimes it's not even about strangers online. Maybe it's the coworker who seems to have it all together, the sibling who's always one step ahead, or the friend who just never seems to struggle the way you do. Here's the problem with comparison. It's a moving target you will never catch. There will always be someone richer, smarter, fitter, more connected, or more accomplished than you in some way. And when you're constantly looking sideways, you're robbing yourself of the energy and attention you need to move forward in your own lane. You can't run your race well if you're too busy watching someone else's stride. What most people don't realize is that comparison isn't just about envy. It's about insecurity. Every time you look at someone else's success and feel smaller, what you're really feeling is a deep-rooted belief that you're not enough as you are. And here's the trap. Comparison reinforces that belief. So you start to think the only way to feel better is to catch up to them. But the more you chase their version of success, the further you drift from your own. Building unshakable confidence means breaking that cycle. It means recognizing that your worth isn't a reflection of someone else's achievements. It's a reflection of who you are and how you show up in your own life. When you start focusing on your own path, you take back the power you've been giving away every time you measure yourself against someone else. One of the best ways to stop the comparison trap is to get crystal clear on what actually matters to you. Not what you think should matter because everyone else values it, but what genuinely aligns with your priorities, values, and vision for your life. Maybe you don't care about climbing the corporate ladder, but you've been chasing promotions because it looks impressive from the outside. Maybe you don't actually want the big house in the suburbs, but you've been stretching your finances to get it because that's what everyone around you is doing. When you're chasing someone else's definition of success, you will always feel behind. But when you define success on your own terms, you'll realize you're already further along than you thought. Another shift that changes everything is learning to turn comparison into inspiration. Instead of looking at someone and thinking, they're so much better than me, you can start thinking, what can I learn from them? This isn't about copying their life. It's about taking the pieces that genuinely resonate with you and applying them in a way that fits your path. This keeps your mindset curious instead of competitive. It's also important to remember that what you're seeing in others is rarely the full picture. People share their victories, not their private struggles. That coworker with the perfect presentation, maybe they stayed up until 3 a.m. redoing it after a dozen mistakes. That couple with the picture, perfect relationship. Maybe they just had a massive argument right before that photo was taken. The point isn't to diminish their success. It's to remind yourself that you're comparing your behind the scenes to their highlight reel, and that's never a fair comparison. The truth is every time you compare yourself to someone else, you're comparing your chapter 5 to their chapter 20. You're looking at the results of years of work, discipline, and choices you can't see. And if you could see the full story, you might actually realize you're doing far better than you've been giving yourself credit for. To build real confidence, you need to anchor your progress to your own past, not someone else's present. Look back at where you were 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. What have you learned? How have you grown? What challenges have you overcome that you once thought were impossible? That's where the evidence of your strength lies, not in how you stack up next to someone else, but in how you've evolved from who you used to be. When you stop measuring your worth by comparison and start measuring it by your own progress, something powerful happens. You free yourself. You stop feeling like you're running a race you can't win, and you start realizing you were never supposed to be in that race to begin with. You can finally pour all of your energy into becoming the fullest version of yourself, and that's where real, unshakable confidence comes from. The only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. One of the greatest challenges in building unshakable confidence is learning how to stand firm when life throws you into uncomfortable, uncertain, or even intimidating situations. It's easy to feel confident when the environment is safe, predictable, and familiar. But the real test, the place where true confidence is forged, is in those moments when your heart is pounding, your palms are sweating, and every part of you is screaming to retreat to safety. That's where most people stop. They wait until they feel ready, until they've rehearsed every possible outcome, until they've eliminated the risk of failure. But here's the truth. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll spend your whole life waiting. Confidence isn't built in the comfort zone. It's built in the messy, awkward, and unpredictable moments where you don't have all the answers, where you might stumble, and where the outcome is uncertain. Think about any skill you've ever learned: riding a bike, driving a car, speaking a new language. You didn't master it by reading about it or watching someone else do it. You learned by getting on the bike, turning the key in the ignition, opening your mouth to speak words you weren't entirely sure about. You learned by doing it badly first. The same is true for confidence. It doesn't come before action. It's the result of action, especially the kind that pushes you past what feels safe. The problem is we've been conditioned to see discomfort as a bad thing, as something to be avoided. We're taught that if we feel nervous or scared, it must mean we're not ready or not capable. But in reality, those feelings are just signals that you're growing. That knot in your stomach, that shaky voice, that quickened heartbeat, they're signs that you're stepping into new territory, expanding your capacity, and proving to yourself that you can handle more than you thought. The people you admire, the ones who seem fearless, bold, and self-assured, didn't get that way by avoiding challenges. They got there by walking straight into situations that made them uncomfortable again and again until their tolerance for discomfort grew. It's not that they stopped feeling fear. It's that they stopped letting fear make their decisions. What's powerful about this is that every time you choose courage over comfort, you rewrite the story you tell yourself about what you're capable of. Maybe you speak up in a meeting even though your voice shakes. Maybe you take that solo trip you've been dreaming about. Maybe you finally pitch your idea even though rejection is possible. These moments add up. Each one becomes evidence that you can trust yourself in uncertain situations. And that self-trust is the foundation of confidence. It's also important to reframe failure in this process. When you step into uncomfortable situations, you're not guaranteed success. In fact, sometimes you'll fall flat. But instead of letting those moments confirm your worst fears about yourself, you can start seeing them as proof that you're in the arena, playing the game, doing the work. You can't build confidence in theory. You build it in practice, and practice means you'll get it wrong sometimes. That's not a flaw in the process, that is the process. Over time, what once felt terrifying will start to feel manageable, and what feels manageable will eventually feel easy. And then you'll be ready for the next stretch, the next risk, the next challenge, the next leap into uncertainty. This constant expansion is how you grow into a version of yourself that can walk into almost any room, any conversation, any opportunity, and feel grounded in who you are. The truth is, you don't become confident by waiting to feel comfortable. You become confident by proving to yourself that you can handle being uncomfortable. And the more you practice that, the less you'll need the world around you to feel perfect before you take action. You'll be able to move forward even when the outcome is unknown. And that's when you start realizing just how much you're capable of. Confidence grows in the moments when you stop avoiding what scares you and start leaning into it. One of the most underestimated aspects of building unshakable confidence is the power of keeping the promises you make yourself. We often think of trust in terms of relationships with other people, trust with friends, partners, colleagues, but the relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. If you break your own word over and over again, if you constantly let yourself off the hook, you start teaching your mind that you can't be counted on. And when you don't trust yourself, confidence becomes fragile. It's like building a house on a cracked foundation. No matter how beautiful it looks on the outside, it won't hold up under pressure. The truth is, most of us are guilty of making promises to ourselves that we never follow through on. We say we'll start that morning routine. We say we'll finally get back to exercising. We say we'll speak up next time someone crosses a line. And yet, when the moment comes, we back down. We justify it by saying we're tired, too busy, not in the mood. It's not that these excuses aren't real. Life can be genuinely demanding. But the more often we choose the easy way out, the more we erode our own self-respect. Think about it when someone in your life repeatedly promises something and never delivers. Your trust in them fades. You stop expecting them to follow through. The same thing happens internally. Every time you tell yourself you'll do something and don't, you chip away at your self-belief. And confidence is really just self-belief in action. The good news is this can be rebuilt, and it doesn't require massive, dramatic gestures. It's not about suddenly becoming a perfect, disciplined, flawless human being. It's about starting small and being consistent. If you promise yourself you'll drink a glass of water when you wake up, do it. If you promise yourself you'll write for 10 minutes before bed, do it. If you promise you'll take a 5-minute walk during your lunch break, do it. These may seem tiny, almost insignificant, but every time you follow through, you send yourself a powerful message. I can count on me. It's not about the water or the writing or the walk. It's about the pattern you're building. You're proving that when you commit, you act. And once that becomes part of your identity, bigger commitments become easier to keep. It's a snowball effect. You start with something small and it rolls into something much larger because you're no longer negotiating with yourself every time. Now, here's where it gets tricky. Many people break promises to themselves not because they're lazy or incapable, but because they overcommit. They set huge, unrealistic goals in a burst of motivation, and when they inevitably fall short, they use it as evidence that they're not disciplined or strong enough. That's why the key is to start with commitments so small they're almost impossible to fail. You can always raise the bar later, but in the beginning, the win isn't about the size of the promise. It's about the fact that you keep it. Another important thing to remember is that keeping promises to yourself isn't about perfection. Life will happen. There will be days when you miss a commitment, and that's okay. What matters is that you get back to it the very next opportunity. Confidence doesn't require that you never fall. It requires that you trust yourself to get back up. When you know you'll return to your commitments no matter what, you stop fearing the occasional slip up. And here's the beautiful thing. Once you develop a deep trust in yourself, external validation becomes far less important. You no longer need constant approval from others to feel good about what you're doing because you know you're living in alignment with your own word. That kind of self-respect radiates outwards. People can sense it, and it's magnetic. Keeping promises to yourself might not sound as glamorous as some of the more dramatic advice out there about building confidence, but it is the bedrock. Without it, every achievement feels temporary, like you're waiting for it to crumble. With it, you develop a quiet, steady, unshakable confidence that can withstand setbacks, criticism, and uncertainty. When you can look in the mirror and know, not hope, not wish, but know that you follow through on what you say you do. You carry yourself differently. You stand taller. You speak with more certainty. You move through life with the calm assurance of someone who's proven again and again that they can count on themselves. Confidence begins with keeping the promises you make to you. One of the most overlooked elements of building unshakable confidence is the willingness to embrace discomfort. Not avoid it, not fight it, but step directly into it. The truth is, we are wired to seek comfort. Our brains are designed to keep us safe, to avoid risk, to steer clear of anything that might cause us pain or embarrassment. And while that instinct once helped us survive in dangerous environments, in today's world, it often works against us. Comfort zones may feel safe, but they can be prisons disguised as sanctuaries. When you stay inside them too long, you stop growing. You stop testing yourself. You stop proving to yourself that you are capable of more than you think. And here's the thing. Confidence doesn't come from staying safe. It's built in the moments when you do something that scares you, challenges you, stretches you. Every time you walk into discomfort and come out on the other side, you're building evidence for yourself. I can handle this. I am capable. That evidence is the foundation of real confidence. Think about the first time you did something that terrified you. Maybe it was speaking in front of a group, going on stage, asking for a raise, making a tough phone call, or even moving to a new city. Before you did it, you were probably full of doubt. Your heart was racing. Your brain was giving you every reason to back out. But once you did it, something shifted. You realized you could survive that fear. You proved to yourself that you were stronger than the voice in your head telling you to retreat. That's what discomfort does. It forges you in a way comfort never can. The mistake so many people make is believing they need confidence before they take a leap. They think, once I feel ready, once I feel brave enough, then I'll do it. But it doesn't work that way. Confidence is not the prerequisite. It's the result. You act first, you step into discomfort. You face the fear and confidence follows. Waiting for the fear to go away before you act is like waiting for the ocean to be still before you swim. You'll be standing on the shore forever. One of the most powerful ways to make discomfort work for you is to practice it in small doses. You don't need to start by jumping into your biggest fear. You can begin by doing little things every day that stretch you. It might be striking up a conversation with someone new, trying a new class where you're the beginner, or sharing your opinion in a meeting when you usually stay quiet. These micro moments of discomfort train your mind and body to see the unfamiliar not as a threat, but as an opportunity. And here's what's fascinating. The more often you choose discomfort, the less power it has over you. Your brain starts to adapt. You stop interpreting the pounding in your chest or the shaky hands as danger and start recognizing them as signs that you're growing. Over time, what once felt terrifying begins to feel exciting. That's the magic. Discomfort becomes a signal that you're on the edge of expansion, not the edge of disaster. But let's be honest, discomfort will never be completely easy. Even the most confident people feel fear and hesitation. The difference is they've trained themselves not to see those feelings as stop signs. They've learned to move forward anyway because they trust themselves to handle whatever happens next. And that's where unshakable confidence lies, in the trust you build by repeatedly proving you can do hard things. Sometimes discomfort is not just about doing something scary, but about enduring the uncertainty that comes afterward. You might take the leap and not know how things will turn out. That's okay. Confidence grows when you can sit in that uncertainty without rushing to run back to the familiar. When you can stand there and think, I may not know exactly what happens next, but I know I'll figure it out. You've crossed a threshold most people never reach. It's worth remembering that every person you admire, every person who seems effortlessly confident, got that way by stepping into discomfort again and again. They weren't born fearless. They built their courage by living in that space between safety and risk, between knowing and not knowing. And every time they did, they became a little stronger, a little more sure of themselves. Confidence is not about eliminating fear. It's about expanding your capacity to carry it. And that expansion only happens when you stop letting discomfort dictate your limits. If you want unshakable confidence, you must make discomfort your training ground